21. Black celebrities who have aged badly. They were once icons worshipped for their talent, beauty, and unshakable presence. But today their faces tell a different story: sagging skin, distant eyes, and legacies haunted by scandal, loss, or time itself. You won't believe how drastically some of these black superstars have changed. From hip-hop royalty to Hollywood royalty, these are the transformations no one saw coming until it was too late. Are these the natural results of aging, or the harsh price of fame? Stick around because number 1 on this list will leave you speechless. Subscribe now to Legends of Black Excellence. The truth behind the fame starts here. Morgan Freeman. Morgan Freeman, born June 1st, 1937 in Memphis, Tennessee, is a name long synonymous with gravitas, wisdom, and unparalleled storytelling. His deep, calming voice narrated everything from Oscar-winning films to documentaries that shaped generations. From unforgettable roles in Driving Miss Daisy, C7 and The Shawshank Redemption. Freeman was once the image of timeless elegance, graceful aging, impeccable delivery, and a demeanor that demanded respect without effort. Yet recent appearances have unveiled a stark contrast to that enduring image. At 87 years old, Freeman's physical transformation has raised concern and curiosity. Once regal and commanding, his posture now reveals the slow, unrelenting grip of aging. Deep creases have carved themselves into his face, not just from time, but seemingly from emotional burdens. Brown age spots dot his skin, and his once bright eyes now appear clouded, as if dimmed by years of strain and sorrow. In 2018, Freeman's spotless legacy faced its first major rupture. A CNN investigation surfaced allegations from 8 women who accused the actor of inappropriate behavior. Though Freeman denied the claims and no legal action followed, public opinion took a sharp turn. He issued an apology stating he never intended discomfort, but the damage was already done. What had once been an unshakable legacy became riddled with uncertainty. Further compounding this image shift was the 2015 death of his step-granddaughter, Edina Hines, under shocking circumstances, stabbed to death by her boyfriend in an incident that drew significant media attention. Rumors swirled unfairly around Freeman's involvement, though he was never implicated, and the emotional toll was undeniably deep. Despite continuing to work in film and television, Freeman now cuts a quieter figure. The confident stride has slowed. The signature voice, while still soothing, trembles with age. His once dignified presence is now shadowed by a history marked with grief and late-career controversy. Morgan Freeman remains one of the most iconic black actors in cinematic history, but his current appearance offers a sobering reminder that even the most powerful figures are not immune to time's erosion. What was once seen as elegant aging now strikes many fans as a visible manifestation of emotional scars and faded glory. A man who once seemed above the fray, now unmistakably human. Lil Wayne, Dwayne Michael Carter Jr., known to the world as Lil Wayne, was once the face of 21st century hip-hop. Bursting onto the scene with Thaw Block Is Hot, and later dominating charts with Thaw Carter 3. Wayne embodied youthful rebellion, lyrical innovation, and commercial genius. He didn't just create hits, he shaped careers, launching Nicki Minaj and Drake under his Young Money label. With dreadlocks swinging and tattoos scrawled across his face, he once personified fearless swagger. But recent public appearances have painted a heartbreaking portrait. At the 2024 Grammy Awards, fans were stunned to see a frail, withered man step onto the stage. His once lean physique had become gaunt. His skin appeared sickly gray, and the signature face tattoos had faded into smudged remnants of a wild past. His hair, once vibrant, now looked brittle and thinned, each lock clinging to memories of his prime. Much of this decline can be traced to years of unchecked substance abuse. Wayne has long been open about his addiction to lean, a mixture of prescription-strength cough syrup and soda, along with a lifestyle marked by excess. He's been hospitalized several times for seizures, some severe enough to require emergency landings. While he continues to release music, the once unbreakable energy has been replaced by a visible physical toll. Beyond health issues, Wayne has faced countless legal challenges, firearms charges, drug possession, and intellectual property disputes. The stress of navigating fame courtrooms and addiction seems to have worn him down. At just 41, he appears decades older, eyes sunken, speech, slower energy dulled. Once hailed as the unstoppable voice of a generation, Lil Wayne now resembles a weary survivor of his own empire. His story is a chilling reminder of how fame can amplify self-destruction, and how even legends can wither under the spotlight they once owned. Bill Cosby. For decades, Bill Cosby stood as a beacon of warmth, intelligence, and family values. As Dr. Cliff Huxtable on The Cosby Show, he shaped perceptions of black fatherhood across America, blending humor with moral wisdom. Behind the scenes, he was one of the most powerful and influential entertainers of the 1980s and 90s, an elder statesman of comedy and education. But by the 2010s, the illusion shattered. Over 60 women came forward with allegations of sexual misconduct spanning several decades. Cosby's 2018 conviction for aggravated indecent assault stunned the world. Though it was overturned in 2021 due to procedural issues, the damage was irreversible. Cosby's once celebrated legacy lay in ruins. Now 86, Cosby's public image is not just tainted. His physical appearance is also drastically changed. Once charismatic and lively, he now appears gaunt, fragile, and disconnected from reality. His eyes, once full of comedic sparkle, often seem vacant. He walks with a heavy stoop, his steps uncertain. During brief public outings or legal appearances, he appears disoriented, far from the confident man who once commanded stages and living rooms alike. His downfall has made him a social outcast. Former colleagues distanced themselves. Institutions stripped him of awards. What was once a household name now triggers tension and discomfort. Behind the physical aging lies a moral collapse that has deeply affected how the world sees him and how he perhaps sees himself. Cosby no longer performs, and his few public statements are defensive, bitter, and occasionally incoherent. The warmth and fatherly charm that once defined him are gone, replaced by isolation and disgrace. Bill Cosby's transformation is one of the most dramatic in entertainment history, not just in appearance but in reputation. From being America's dad to a symbol of betrayal, his aged figure now evokes not nostalgia, but a haunting question: how could someone so revered fall so far? Mike Tyson. In the late 1980s, Mike Tyson was not just a boxer, he was a force of nature. At only 20 years old, he became the youngest heavyweight champion in history. With ferocious knockouts and unshakable intensity, Tyson dominated the sport in a way that few have before or since. His name struck fear into opponents and awe into fans. But today at 58, the man once dubbed Iron Mike looks far removed from the invincible titan of the ring. His once sculpted frame is heavier, softer, and slower. His signature facial tattoo has faded, and his voice, once explosive and sharp, is now raspy and subdued. His eyes often seem distant, as if haunted by years that were too fast, too hard, and too painful to carry quietly. Tyson's physical and emotional decline didn't begin in the ring. It started with the chaos outside it. After earning over $400 million during his career, Tyson filed for bankruptcy in 2003. Lavish spending, lawsuits, and extravagant habits, including pet tigers and mansions, drained his fortune. In 1992, he was convicted of rape and served 3 years in prison. He later admitted to heavy drug use, including cocaine, even during his comeback fights. In recent years, Tyson has rebranded himself as a podcast host and cannabis entrepreneur. While he occasionally appears in public and maintains a loyal fan base, his body tells another story. In 2023, he used a wheelchair during an airport appearance, sparking health rumors. Although he clarified it was due to back issues, the visual left fans shaken. No longer the feared gladiator, Tyson now moves like a man weighed down by regret and time. His transformation is more than physical, it's psychological. The fighter who once symbolized raw power has become a fragile icon, still famous, but no longer fearsome. The ring no longer holds him, and what's left is a man struggling to stay relevant in a world that remembers him at his most brutal. Monique Angela Hicks, better known simply as Monique, once owned every room she walked into. Her bold humor, unfiltered honesty, and radiant energy made her a standout in comedy and film. In 2009, she won an Academy Award for Precious Proving. She was more than just a funny woman, she was a powerhouse of raw emotion and fearless talent. However, in recent years, her public image has shifted. Now 56, Monique appears tired, reserved, and physically altered. In a live stream in 2023, fans were surprised to see her looking pale and noticeably thinner. Her expressive eyes, once full of fire, now seemed dulled. The vibrant laugh that once filled rooms came slower, heavier, as if guarded by something invisible. Much of Monique's decline in visibility can be traced to her outspoken fight against what she called industry bias. In 2018, she publicly called for a boycott of Netflix over alleged pay discrimination. She also clashed with industry giants like Tyler Perry, Oprah Winfrey, and Lee Daniels' moves that effectively blacklisted her from mainstream projects. While she stood her ground on principle, the professional fallout was brutal. Away from the limelight, she struggled not only with emotional strain, but also health issues related to weight loss and hormonal imbalance, which she spoke about candidly. Though she remains active on social media and still performs stand-up, the momentum she once had seems to have slowed to a whisper. In every public appearance now, there is a visible weight that goes beyond the physical. Monique no longer walks with the same defiance. She moves like someone who has had to fight too long just to be heard. The sharp wit remains, but it's laced with weariness. Once the embodiment of confidence and strength, Monique today looks like a woman weathered by battles that never truly ended. Her aging is not just of the body, but of spirit. A painful reminder that standing up for yourself in Hollywood can sometimes come at the cost of everything else. Bobby Brown. In the late 80s and early 90s, Bobby Brown was R&B's fire starter. From his breakout with New Edition to his explosive solo hits like My Prerogative and Every Little Step, Brown wasn't just a performer. He was a phenomenon. He moved like electricity, dressed with swagger, and sang with defiant passion. But today, at 55, that fire has been reduced to fading embers. Recent appearances have shown a man barely recognizable to fans who remember him at his peak. Brown's face appears swollen, his movements lethargic, and his expressions hollow. In 2023, at a modest fan meet and greet in Atlanta, those in attendance noted his labored walk, the glassy stare in his eyes, and the sense that he was merely enduring the moment, not enjoying it. Bobby Brown's transformation can't be understood without acknowledging the heartbreaks that have marked his life. The 2012 death of his ex-wife, Whitney Houston, was a seismic blow. 3 years later, their daughter, Bobby Christina, died under eerily similar circumstances. And in 2020, his 28-year-old son, Bobby Brown Jr., passed from a drug overdose. These were not just tragic events. They were emotional collapses from which few could fully recover. His battles with substance abuse were public and long-running. Crack, cocaine, alcohol, and prescription medications all played roles in his downfall. Though he claims sobriety today, the lasting damage on his body and soul is clear. Time has not been gentle. It has been merciless. What's most striking now is the sorrow that seems to cling to him. Once the embodiment of carefree rebellion, Bobby Brown is now a man who moves slowly, speaks softly, and smiles rarely. He performs on occasion, but fans can't help but notice the difference not just in his voice, but in his spirit. His aging is not simply the result of years. It's the result of cumulative grief addiction and relentless personal loss. Bobby Brown is still standing, but the man who once danced across stages with joy is now more like a solemn figure carrying invisible weights no one else can see. Lauryn Hill. Lauryn Hill was once the voice of a generation, raw, brilliant, and impossibly beautiful. As the frontwoman of the Fugees, and later as a solo artist, her 1998 album, The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, became a cultural landmark. Hill's presence was ethereal, grounded in truth, and dripping with authenticity. At 23, she won 5 Grammys in one night, becoming the first woman to do so. She was not just a musician, she was a movement. Fast forward to today, and Lauryn Hill, now 49, appears transformed by time and turmoil. During a rare performance in Brooklyn in late 2023, fans were stunned. Draped in oversized coats and scarves, she appeared gaunt and weary. Her face, once glowing with vitality, now seemed weathered, her eyes distant as though staring at something only she could see. Unlike many on this list, Hill didn't crash due to scandal or addiction. She simply stepped back from fame, rejecting the machinery of the music industry. But the price of that rebellion was isolation. She became entangled in legal battles, including a high-profile 2013 tax evasion case that led to a 3-month prison sentence. Her sporadic appearances over the years were often marked by lateness, erratic behavior, or cryptic speeches suggesting a mind still searching for peace. Hill's physical transformation appears deeply linked to spiritual and emotional unrest. There's a heaviness to her presence now, a woman burdened not by failure, but by the pain of walking away from a world that never made space for her truth. Her once celestial vocals remain, but the joy that once carried them feels dimmed. For many, Lauryn Hill's aging isn't defined by her looks, but by what she no longer radiates: the fire, the confidence, the sense of destiny. She remains beloved but distant, a ghostly echo of a time when her brilliance seemed unstoppable. In turning her back on the industry, she preserved her principles but perhaps lost parts of herself in the process. Lil' Kim. In the 1990s, Lil' Kim was the very embodiment of fearless femininity in hip-hop. With her bold lyrics, provocative fashion, and unapologetic confidence, she redefined what it meant to be a female rapper in a male-dominated industry. Hits like Crush on You No Time and her feature on Lady Marmalade made her a household name. Her image was iconic, petite, powerful, and unforgettable. But in recent years, Lil' Kim's appearance has become a topic of somber discussion rather than celebration. Now 50, she is often unrecognizable from the woman who once graced magazine covers with raw magnetism. Her skin tone appears unnaturally light, her cheeks exaggeratedly sculpted, and her nose dramatically altered. Multiple surgeries have left her with an almost porcelain-like expression, smooth, tight, and motionless, erasing much of the personality that once danced across her face. The transformation didn't happen overnight. Lil' Kim has spoken candidly about struggling with self-esteem and the emotional wounds left by abusive relationships. She admitted feeling pressured by societal beauty standards and personal insecurities that pushed her toward repeated cosmetic procedures. In trying to reshape herself into a more accepted form of beauty, she ended up losing the very features that once set her apart. Behind the glamorous outfits and elaborate wigs, now lies a woman who seems to be searching for validation in a world that rarely gave it freely. Even fans have expressed sorrow rather than criticism, noting how her physical transformation feels like a metaphor for emotional damage never fully addressed. Despite continuing to perform and maintain a presence in hip-hop, the focus often shifts from her talent to her altered appearance. Lil' Kim remains a pioneer, but one whose legacy now carries a visual reminder of what relentless pressure to conform can do to even the strongest icons. Flavor Flav. Flavor Flav wasn't just part of Public Enemy, he was its chaotic heartbeat. Known for his oversized clock necklaces, wild stage antics, and explosive energy, Flav brought comic relief to the group's otherwise politically charged messages. His unmistakable voice and offbeat charisma made him one of hip-hop's most recognizable personalities throughout the late 80s and early 90s. Now 65, Flavor Flav is almost unrecognizable. His once vibrant skin is sunken and darkened, his eyes hollow and lifeless. At a recent event, he moved slowly and awkwardly, clutching his trademark clock like a relic of a past he refuses to let go. The accessory that once symbolized eccentric confidence now appears more like an anchor to a persona long gone. Flav's dramatic decline is directly linked to years of substance abuse. He struggled with crack cocaine, alcohol, and prescription drug addictions for decades. His arrests, ranging from DUIs to assault and failure to pay child support, made headlines as frequently as his music. He became a fixture on reality TV, often appearing disoriented or incoherent, far removed from the sharp-witted showman fans remembered. Though he's been sober since 2020 and has tried to rebuild relationships with his family and industry peers, the physical toll remains visible. His speech is slower, his posture hunched, and the fire that once lit up every room now flickers faintly. Where once he was unpredictable and magnetic, today, he seems fragile, almost ghost-like. Flavor Flav's aging represents more than just a decline in health. It's the slow unraveling of a personality that once electrified stages. Time, drugs, and self-destruction didn't just change his face, they dulled his very essence. He still shows up, still smiles, but it's a smile that now feels like a mask, worn to cover decades of chaos that he never truly escaped. Tracy Morgan. Tracy Morgan was once the wild card of American comedy, a scene stealer on Saturday Night Live, a breakout star on 30 Rock, and a stand-up powerhouse with a gleam in his eye that signaled mischief and brilliance. His comedic timing, distinctive voice, and animated expressions made him instantly memorable. At his best, he was unstoppable, bold, unpredictable, and radiating infectious energy. But after the 2014 highway crash that nearly claimed his life, Tracy Morgan's physical and emotional presence changed forever. The tragic accident left him with a traumatic brain injury, multiple broken bones, and a long road to recovery that included learning how to walk and talk again. At 55, the man who once bounced across stages now walks with caution. His gestures slower, his voice quieter. Morgan's appearance reflects that hard-fought battle. His face, once brimming with expressive life, often appears heavy with fatigue. The once bright eyes that danced with comedic spark now seem distant at times, watchful, as though still adjusting to a body and mind that were forever altered in seconds. His smile, still warm, comes more softly now, tinged with the weight of survival. Though he made a celebrated return to stand-up, and television audiences have noticed a subtle shift. His timing is more subdued, his delivery less frenetic. He speaks with gratitude for life, but the edge, the wildness that defined his comedic persona has been replaced by a more reflective tone. Morgan's aging is unique in this list. It's not driven by scandal, addiction, or excess, but by sheer tragedy. He survived, yes, but not without sacrifice. The physical and mental scars of that crash continue to shape how the world sees him and how he sees himself. Where he once represented untamed humor, Tracy Morgan now stands as a symbol of fragility beneath the surface of laughter, a performer still trying to reclaim pieces of himself that may never fully return. Debbie Allen. Debbie Allen once moved like poetry in motion. A revered choreographer, actress, and director, she brought grace, passion, and power to every project she touched. Best known for fame. A Different World and her groundbreaking stage work, she inspired generations not just through performance, but through mentorship. Her energy was unmatched, fiery, focused, and unforgettable. Now, 74. Allen's public appearances carry a more subdued tone. At a Lifetime Achievement ceremony in 2023, she sat with quiet poise, hands gently folded, and a faraway look in her eyes. The fierce vitality that once electrified every movement has softened. Her once toned dancer's frame now appears more delicate, her gait slower and her face etched with the cost of decades of relentless pursuit of perfection. Unlike others on this list, Debbie Allen's transformation hasn't come with scandal, substance abuse, or controversy. Her decline is not disgraceful, it's dignified, but it's still striking. Time has thinned. Her silver hair softened her once commanding voice and dulled the flash in her eyes that once commanded Broadway stages and television sets alike. Years of grueling work schedules, sleepless nights, and emotional investment in every student and project have taken their toll. She has spoken about the sacrifices she made, missing family moments, working through injuries, and carrying the pressure of breaking barriers in an industry that wasn't always welcoming. Today, Allen still teaches, directs, and inspires, but there's a gentleness to her now, a reflective stillness where once there was constant motion. Her aging isn't tragic, it's poetic, but the contrast to her former brilliance is undeniable. Debbie Allen remains a legend. Yet seeing her now quiet in posture and slower in step reminds audiences that even the strongest lights eventually dim not from failure, but from giving too much of themselves to the world. 50 Cent. When Curtis 50 Cent Jackson exploded onto the scene with Get Rich or Die Tryin' in 2003, he was the physical embodiment of resilience. Surviving 9 gunshots, he strutted into the rap world with muscle-bound confidence, a bulletproof vest, and a menacing smirk. He wasn't just an artist, he was an empire rapper, producer, businessman, and actor. For years, he maintained an image of invincibility. But time has peeled back that armor. At 48, 50 Cent's appearance now draws quiet concern rather than awe. His face has visibly aged cheeks, slightly sagging jawline less defined, and deep lines cutting across what was once a sculpted visage. His once bulky frame appears uneven, and his fashion choices now often attempt to conceal rather than highlight. Much of this shift began after 2015 when he filed for bankruptcy amid a series of costly legal battles, including a $7 million judgment over a leaked sex tape. Though he later claimed the bankruptcy was a strategic move and continued building his media empire with shows like Power, the financial strain exposed vulnerability in a man once hailed for his dominance. More recently, fans have noticed changes in his gait, slower speech, and weight fluctuations. At a 2023 film premiere, the oversized suit he wore seemed more like a shroud than a style choice, swallowing the confidence he once wore so naturally. There was no smile, no bravado, just a man who looked tired. 50 Cent still commands respect, but the intensity that once defined him has softened into weariness. His social media remains active, but even his humor feels less biting, more introspective. His transformation isn't due to scandal or addiction, it's the weight of decades spent fighting battles on all fronts. He's still standing, but now the question isn't whether he's strong enough to survive, it's whether he still wants to fight. Chris Rock. Chris Rock has long been revered as one of the sharpest minds in comedy. With a razor tongue and fearless wit, he dissected racism, politics, and relationships with precision. From Bring the Pain to Tambourine, he didn't just make people laugh, he made them think. But following the infamous 2022 Oscars incident where Will Smith slapped him on stage in front of millions, a different Chris Rock emerged. At 59, the comedian now appears physically and emotionally altered. The once vibrant twinkle in his eyes has dulled. His face looks thinner, more angular. His movements, once quick and energetic, are now more reserved, almost cautious. While he initially avoided interviews, Rock eventually used his Selective Outrage Netflix special in 2023 to address the slap. But even then, his voice cracked beneath the humor. His anger was visible, his pain barely veiled. It was clear the slap wasn't just a moment, it was a fracture. Adding to the emotional toll was a prolonged and painful divorce finalized in 2016 after nearly 2 decades of marriage. Rock has admitted to infidelity and addiction to pornography confessions that hinted at a man battling demons behind the scenes. He also revealed a diagnosis of nonverbal learning disorder, which made personal relationships especially difficult to maintain. Today, his aging seems accelerated, not in body alone, but in spirit. His face bears deep creases, and even his posture feels withdrawn. Though still touring and performing, audiences have noted that the edge in his comedy feels more like a shield than a sword used to protect, not provoke. Chris Rock's transformation isn't rooted in physical decline alone. It's the visible erosion of someone worn down by the emotional backlash of being publicly humiliated, then expected to keep smiling. The laughter hasn't stopped, but it now echoes with something deeper pain. Cuba Gooding Jr. In 1997, Cuba Gooding Jr. stood on the Oscar stage, beaming with pride as he shouted, "Show me the money," his unforgettable catchphrase from Jerry Maguire. That moment cemented him as one of Hollywood's most promising talents. With a boyish smile, vibrant charisma, and electrifying energy, he became a favorite among fans and filmmakers alike. For a while, it seemed Cuba was destined for a legacy of greatness. But by the 2010s, his public appearances told a different story. At 56, Gooding Jr. looks far removed from the glowing star audiences once adored. His once vibrant face is now marked by deep lines and fatigue. His posture seems weary, and his expressions often appear distracted or vacant. In 2022, he walked into a Manhattan courtroom wearing a wrinkled suit, looking aged and diminished, almost unrecognizable from his days on red carpets. The most visible cause of this transformation is scandal. Between 2019 and 2022, over 30 women came forward with allegations of sexual misconduct. He ultimately pleaded guilty to one count of forcible touching. Though he avoided jail time, the damage to his career and reputation was severe. Roles dried up, red carpet invites vanished, and his once celebrated name became a whisper of controversy. Unlike some who aged due to physical ailments, Cuba's change appears emotional and reputational. His decline feels like watching a man weighed down by disappointment, not only from the public, but from himself. The light in his eyes has dimmed, and the charm that once captivated millions now feels forced and hollow. Cuba Gooding Jr. remains a talented actor, but his current state reflects a hard truth. Fame can fall apart faster than it rises, especially when the fall is fueled by actions that break the trust of an audience once rooting for you. Dennis Rodman. Dennis Rodman was never just a basketball player, he was a cultural earthquake. Known for his unmatched rebounding skills, flamboyant style, and bad boy persona, he helped lead the Chicago Bulls to 3 NBA championships in the 1990s. His hair changed colors with every game, he wore wedding dresses in public, and he defied every convention the sports world tried to enforce. Rodman was unpredictable, magnetic, and unforgettable, but now at 63, the icon of rebellion appears painfully eroded. At a press conference in 2023, Rodman's appearance shocked longtime fans. His hair, once a wild canvas of color, looked patchy and unkempt. His skin had lost its luster, his face was deeply creased, and his eyes seemed to drift between focus and fatigue. The physical signs of deterioration were undeniable. The causes of his decline are well documented. Rodman battled alcohol abuse for decades, checked into rehab multiple times, and made headlines for erratic behavior both on and off the court. His personal life was just as chaotic, with failed marriages, arrests, and frequent outbursts. Even his attempts at diplomacy, such as his bizarre friendship with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, were viewed more as cries for attention than genuine activism. Rodman's aging isn't just physical, it's symbolic. The man who once reveled in being untouchable now appears lost in the very chaos he used to control. He speaks slowly, stumbles over words, and appears more confused than controversial. Once hailed as fearless, he now comes across as fragile. He's no longer the worm that electrified arenas and challenged norms. Instead, he's a cautionary tale, a once vibrant force of nature now wandering through a haze of regret, addiction, and faded fame. Rodman's decline is difficult to watch because his rise was so extraordinary. But it serves as a sobering reminder, even those who shine the brightest can burn out just as spectacularly. Wesley Snipes. Wesley Snipes once ruled Hollywood's action scene. With a piercing gaze, martial arts mastery, and razor-sharp intensity, he redefined what a black leading man could be. Films like Blade, Demolition Man, and New Jack City made him both a box office draw and a pop culture icon. He was sleek, lethal, and radiated cool, the kind of actor who didn't just act in action movies, he was the action. But the Wesley Snipes seen today at 61 is far from the silver screen warrior he once was. At a 2022 film event, he arrived looking fragile, his frame thinner, his face noticeably gaunt, and his movements more cautious than confident. The commanding presence that once lit up movie sets has been replaced with a quiet, almost hesitant demeanor. His downfall began in the mid-2000s, when he became entangled in a tax evasion scandal. In 2008, Snipes was sentenced to 3 years in federal prison for failing to file tax returns on millions in income. By the time he was released in 2013, the industry had moved on. Once a top-billed star, he struggled to find footing again, relegated to minor roles and low-budget films that failed to recapture his past glory. Though he's attempted comebacks, including an appearance in Coming to America 2021, his aura has undeniably changed. The smooth confidence that once defined him now seems worn down by years of legal trouble, financial strain, and absence from the spotlight. Snipes' aging feels particularly tragic because it's not just time, it's the weight of a career that once soared, then stumbled so publicly. His transformation is a story of brilliance dimmed not by lack of talent, but by choices that cost him everything he once had. Suge Knight. There was a time when Suge Knight was the most feared man in the music industry. As the co-founder of Death Row Records, he stood behind legends like Tupac Shakur, Dr. Dre, and Snoop Dogg. Towering, intimidating, and ruthless Knight controlled West Coast rap with an iron fist during the 1990s. His presence alone could silence a room. Now at 59, Knight's fall from power is both steep and irreversible. Serving a 28-year prison sentence for voluntary manslaughter after a fatal 2015 hit-and-run, his once terrifying image has been reduced to a prison jumpsuit and a hunched posture. Mugshots from recent years show a vastly different man, bald, bloated, and drained of the fire that once made him infamous. Knight's legal troubles have always followed him. From assault charges to parole violations and gang ties, controversy was constant. But the 2015 incident caught on surveillance video marked the end of his reign. In 2018, he struck a plea deal that would keep him incarcerated until at least the early 2040s, well into old age. Inside prison, Knight has faded from cultural relevance. Once the kingmaker behind multi-platinum albums, he is now largely forgotten by the artists he once helped build. Death Row was sold, revived, and transformed without him, his legacy slowly being erased while he sits in isolation. Suge Knight's aging is not simply a matter of years. It's the visible decline of a man who once commanded an empire but now commands nothing. His powerful voice is rarely heard. His body, once intimidating, now looks heavy and worn. And his presence, once magnetic, has become a mere footnote in music history. Knight's transformation is not surprising. It's chilling. It reminds us that unchecked power, when built on fear and violence, always collapses. And when it does, the man left behind often looks nothing like the myth he once created. Stevie Wonder. Stevie Wonder isn't just a music legend. He's a cultural cornerstone. Born Stevland Hardaway, Judkins in 1950, Wonder became a Motown prodigy by the age of 11, and went on to create timeless classics like Superstition Isn't She Lovely and I Just Called to Say I Love You. Blind since infancy, he broke barriers with his talent, winning 25 Grammy Awards and changing the sound of popular music forever. But today, at 74, Stevie Wonder appears as a frail echo of the dynamic performer who once commanded stages around the world. At a tribute event in 2023, attendees were visibly moved not only by his music, but by his visible physical decline. His long, iconic braids now hang sparse and gray. His once vibrant presence has slowed, and his face is deeply lined with age. In 2019, Wonder underwent a kidney transplant, a procedure that sparked widespread concern over his health. Since then, his public appearances have become rare, and his voice, once filled with emotional resonance and vocal gymnastics, now sounds thinner and subdued. He still sings, but the effortless range and playful improvisations have largely vanished. Beyond physical changes, whispers have circulated regarding his declining health and ability to manage personal and professional affairs, though unconfirmed. Fans have noticed a quieter, more withdrawn version of the legend, who once lit up the world with sheer joy and artistry. Stevie Wonder's aging is not marked by scandal or self-destruction. It's the slow fade of someone who gave everything to music and now stands on the far end of a brilliant journey. His presence still commands reverence, but his performances now carry an air of melancholy, as if each note might be one of the last. Cedric the Entertainer. There was a time when Cedric the Entertainer was the life of the party, whether on stage, television, or the big screen. With a booming laugh, perfectly tailored suits, and quick-witted charm, he reigned as one of the original kings of comedy and brought infectious energy to shows like The Steve Harvey Show and films like Barbershop. Now 60, Cedric still works, but the difference is clear. During a 2023 talk show appearance, audiences were stunned by how much he had changed. His once full, rounded face showed signs of sagging. His energy was lower, his speech more measured, and the swagger that once electrified the stage felt diluted. He moved slower, spoke more cautiously, and occasionally appeared out of breath between jokes. Though Cedric has largely avoided scandal, his aging seems tied to the physical toll of non-stop work over decades. Years of filming, touring, and maintaining a demanding public schedule have left him visibly worn. His once signature smile now seems less effortless, more like a practiced gesture than a genuine burst of joy. Fans who once laughed with him now find themselves watching with quiet concern. While he continues to star in the neighborhood and perform stand-up, his presence feels less commanding. There's a noticeable heaviness in his demeanor, a slowing of rhythm that feels more like resignation than refinement. Cedric's transformation isn't tragic, it's sobering. He hasn't fallen from grace, but the shine has dimmed. Once a comedic powerhouse, he now seems more like a nostalgic echo of his former self, still beloved but moving with the weight of time pressing on every step. Samuel L. Jackson. For decades, Samuel L. Jackson was Hollywood's go-to force of nature. From Pulp Fiction to The Avengers, he commanded attention in every frame, often with a single glare or perfectly timed line delivered in his unmistakable voice. Known for his intensity, sharp diction, and swagger, Jackson became a symbol of cinematic dominance, one of the most bankable and respected actors in modern history. But at 75, Jackson's recent public appearances tell a quieter story. At a 2023 awards show, longtime fans noticed a subdued figure, his hair now stark white, his gait slower, and his voice less forceful. While still articulate and commanding, his speech had lost some of its signature sharpness. His eyes, once full of fire and calculated mischief, appeared more reflective and tired. Unlike many others on this list, Jackson hasn't been mired in personal scandal. His aging instead seems to reflect the exhaustion of a man who has given everything to his craft. With over 150 film credits and decades of tireless promotion travel and physical roles, the toll is now visible. His hands trembled slightly while accepting an award. His posture, once upright and dominant, now carries the slight hunch of age. Jackson's transformation is also psychological. In recent interviews, he's spoken about growing disillusionment with industry politics, the weight of being a role model, and the impact of aging on his mental health. The once fiery actor who could steal a scene with one sentence now speaks with the calm of a man winding down his legacy. Samuel L. Jackson remains a legend, but the aura of invincibility that once surrounded him has softened. The man who once shouted down movie villains now appears more like a wise elder statesman, still present, still brilliant, but unmistakably changed. Chris Brown. Chris Brown burst onto the scene in 2005 with the charm of a young Michael Jackson and the moves of a seasoned performer. With hits like Run It With You and Forever, he became the face of a new generation of R&B. At just 16, he was a sensation, fresh-faced, full of life, and poised for superstardom. But at 35, Brown now looks like someone who has aged beyond his years. His face appears sallow and drawn. Dark circles frame his eyes, his skin tone appears uneven, and his once thick hair has noticeably thinned. In recent performances and photos, he often looks tired, his once vibrant energy replaced by a haunted gaze. The turning point in Brown's career was the 2009 assault of Rihanna, a scandal that derailed his public image. Though he issued apologies and completed probation, the stigma followed him, overshadowing his artistic output. Over the years, a series of legal issues, drug-related rumors, and erratic behavior have further dimmed his shine. Brown's physical decline seems to mirror the emotional weight he's carried. Reports of drug abuse, including cocaine and lean, have followed him, and his unpredictable demeanor in interviews and live shows has raised red flags. Despite releasing successful albums and maintaining a loyal fan base, the joy that once fueled his performances now feels replaced by tension and fatigue. What's most tragic is that Chris Brown still possesses immense talent, but the spark of innocence and joy that once defined him appears buried beneath controversy, exhaustion, and years of personal chaos. He no longer radiates the effortless charm of youth. Instead, he carries the weary aura of someone who has lived too hard, too fast. His transformation isn't just physical, it's symbolic of a prodigy who flew too close to the flame and now bears the scars for all to see. Time, fame, and hardships spare no one, not even the legends we once saw as untouchable. From shocking physical changes to the emotional weight of scandal, these 21 black celebrities show how quickly the spotlight can fade. But now we ask you, are these stories of failure or simply the cost of living in the public eye for too long? Should we judge them by how they look today or remember the impact they made at their peak? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to Legends of Black Excellence for more untold truths behind iconic black figures.